What's up guys, I'm Shane and this is Spare Change. Here on the channel, we discuss all things audio and video, like new movies and new AV equipment. So if it's your first time here, consider tapping that subscribe button for new weekly videos. In for review, we've got The Call of the Wild on 4K Blu-ray. I'm not going to be reviewing the movie itself, I'm just going to share with you some of my thoughts on the video and the audio quality. Now for a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 6.5K. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG. Runtime is 100 minutes. Aspect ratio is 239:1, so you will have those black letterbox bars. Let's talk about that video quality. This is one fantastic looking transfer. If you're into clean, crisp looking images, then you'll probably really like the way this movie looks. The close-up shots are just about perfect looking. So perfect, it makes Indy's wrinkles and facial hair kinda hard to look at. It's just too detailed. Textures on clothing were rendered right down to the finest stitches and tiniest little fibers. All the trees and foliage and dirt and grass is really sharp. If there's one thing that's gonna take you out of the movie, it's gonna be the CGI dog. I mean, it just doesn't look that real. The animation and everything is good, but it just felt a little too cartoony to me. Now, there are a couple shots where the dog is just sitting there doing nothing, and it kinda does actually look like a real dog, but for the most part, it's pretty obvious that this thing, it ain't real. As for HDR, I thought this was one of those slightly dimmer HDR transfers. I wouldn't say it's dark, but you'll see the overall brightness level take a dip. That being said, I thought this had a very natural color palette. It wasn't exactly bold and vivid, but there is a nice richness to the primary colors. Greens and blues are deeply saturated, and there are a few scenes when they're sledding through the snow that the night sky is illuminated in purples and teals. Those are the only shots that kind of really pop. Black levels and shadow detail were just as natural looking with no visible crushing or distracting issues. And contrast levels do give this transfer excellent depth and dimension.
What?
Audio is in Dolby Atmos, and I thought there was some very convincing overhead effects and some decent ambiance through most of the movie. There is a cool part in Chapter 1 when the dog is running through the house and jumps off the bed, and then he lands and it cuts to a different scene with him landing on the second floor. You'll hear a very distinct thud in the Heights speakers when he lands on the ground. It legit sounded like my upstairs neighbor was banging his feet. I think the best sounding part was the cave run in Chapter 10. You'll hear the dogs running through this icy cave with icicles breaking off in different channels and an avalanche falling right above you. There's always ambiance in all of the channels since most of the movie takes place out in the wilderness, so soundstage does have that big presence. Bass response from that avalanche in Chapter 10 was the heaviest use in the movie, and there were some parts when the subwoofer dug surprisingly deep. This isn't a big action flick, but when bass is called for, it does get heavy and goes down really low. Dialogue was always easy to hear, so no issues there. So for audio, I'm gonna go with an 8.4. I enjoyed the surround usage, and there was some very cool overhead activity. Everything matched what was happening on screen, and it was a solid mix for the most part. For video, I'm gonna go with a 9.3. As I mentioned earlier, if you like clean 4K crisp transfers, then this movie should be right up your alley. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much from this, but this movie is super detailed, it's sharp, it's clean, and it's one of the best looking movies I've seen this year. Although Solo's computer-generated arm right here in this scene doesn't look so hot. So tell us your thoughts on the Call of the Wild transfer. Did you think it looked as good as we did, or did you think it looked worse? Leave us a comment and let us know. Now, if you want to pick up this movie, I'll leave some links for it in the video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can find us on social media, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you guys again in the next one.